Hello and welcome back to my channel. Hey! Today's video is just gonna be my reading wrap up for the month of May. I read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 books. Technically 11. No, technically 10. We'll unpack that in a second because one of these books I didn't actually finish reading, but I do feel the need to include it a little bit in this video because I'm not sure if it's a DNF or it's just we're setting it aside for now and I'll pick it up later in the future. You know what I mean? Every single book that I'm going to talk about today, except for one, I have in physical form. So I'm going to go ahead and touch on the one that I don't own in physical form so I don't forget about it, and then we'll jump into all of those. The first book that I don't own, None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. I love Lisa Jewell books. They're less thrillery, more mystery, and I think this one has to be my favorite of hers. I'm trying to decide if this is my favorite or The Night She Disappeared, the one with the blue cover. I don't know which one of these is my favorite. I think it's actually this one. I ended up listening to the audiobook of this one. The book starts out with these two women meeting at the pub. They're both there celebrating their birthdays. They were born on the same day. And they end up chatting about like, hey, we're birthday twins. Their names are Josie and Alex. And Josie ends up finding out that Alex does a podcast about empowering women and women turning their lives around. And so Josie reaches out to Alex about starting a new podcast segment about her, but Josie hadn't yet turned her life around, and so she's trying to get Alex to do a podcast about her starting to turn her life around. I don't even know how to explain it. Basically, Alex just starts interviewing Josie, and then Alex is unpacking Josie's life as she's like finding out more about Josie, and she's like, your life is kind of like weird. Like, this is kind of strange, and also some of your behavior is really strange. Who is the problem here in your life and what is going on? This is a mild psychological thriller, so you're reading it and you're like, I don't know who to trust, but not like, I don't know who to trust. It's more so like, I don't know who to trust. Very casual, very chill. I give it 4 stars. One of my favorite things in audiobooks is 1, when they have multiple narrators, and 2, when they make the audiobook a little bit of a production. So there was like a future situation that had happened and there was like a newscast or like a future podcaster discussing it, and when it would jump into those scenes within the book, you would feel like you were listening in on a legit radio station or a legit podcasting. Like the audio would switch a little bit to where it was less like the narrator speaking directly to you, reading lines from the book, and it was like a little show within the book, if that makes any sense. Really quick before I continue with today's reading wrap up, I do want to thank the sponsor of today's video, which is June's Journey. Thank you so much for sponsoring today's video. June's Journey is a hidden object murder mystery game. June is the main character. You are June throughout all of it, so you're really playing detective throughout the game. Alongside going through these scenes and finding different hidden objects and uncovering different things about the murder while you're doing that, you also get to decorate your own little house, which is my favorite part. You get to decorate your land, redo your home, upgrade your home, put some dogs on there, and make your space beautiful, alongside solving who murdered your sister, while also uncovering so many family secrets along the way. Like sometimes you'll be doing the hidden little things and you'll find a clue and you'll be like, what the heck? I'm at the end of chapter 2. So some of the things we have uncovered about June's family, I'm like, oh my gosh, oh my. Oh, okay. Again, June's Journey is free to download, so if you are interested in playing a little murder mystery, looking for hidden objects, decorating your own landscape, estate, if you will, you can either scan the QR code that will be on the screen, or you can click the link in the description bar down below. And thank you, June's Journey, for sponsoring today's video. Let's get back into the reading wrap up. With the physical books, I'm not going to go in any particular order. I'm just going to grab them as I grab them. Mother Thing. This was the first book that I read in my horror vlog. I gave it 3.5 stars. The more that I think about this book, the more that I like it. And that's what happens with books like these that I read. I end up reading them and I'm like, that was good. What the fuck? And then I think about it a little bit more and I'm like, oh, okay. Okay, and it's like my brain needs a little bit of time to unpack everything that had happened. Ralph and Abby find Ralph's mother dead in the basement. And Abby and his mom, they had beef. They never had a good relationship. Things were always rocky with them. The mom comes back to haunt both of them. She ends up haunting Ralph in the way of he just gets super depressed. And she haunts Abby more so in the way that Abby feels this need to destroy everything in her life and destroy everything that she loves. Very weird girl shit type read. Not really gory, not really horror-y in the sense that it's scary, more horror in the sense that it's like just freaky and weird. And there was a word that was used in my vlog. Disgusting? Something along the lines. Misery by Stephen King. This is the second book. Was this the second that I read in that vlog? I don't know what I rated this in that vlog, but right now in this moment, I feel like it's a 3.25 for me. I liked it, but the more that I think about this one, the more repetitive it was for me. I think the writing style of Stephen King, he paints like a beautiful it's the fact that I'm going to say he paints a beautiful story, and then I'm going to go into the fact that this lady basically holds her favorite author hostage. So like beautiful story, but also it's horror. So it's not beautiful butterflies. It's like, it was just painted very well. I'm wording this all so weird. Annie Wilkes holds her favorite author hostage, and when she finds his manuscript for the new book that he's gonna write, she doesn't like the ending, so then she really keeps this man hostage, and she's like, you're gonna write a new book because it needs to have a better ending. So he's basically there writing a book for her and having to change this book so that she likes it, while she's doing really depraved, disgusting, and horrific things to this man. And some of the things really made me have to just set the book down and look away. The 7-Year Slip. This is the first book that I read in the month of May. I ended up bouncing back and forth between the audio and the book, and I really, really liked this one. This is the first book that I've read by this author. I do want to read The Dead Romantics, but the reason why, I think that's the first in this series. I'm not sure if it's interconnected or not. I found this in my neighborhood library a couple months ago, which is why I read this first, and I've just heard even better things about this book. I wasn't sure how I would feel about the fact that this book jumps timelines a bit, and it is a little magical in a sense, kind of, but the timeline jumping, the 7 years back and forth, I wasn't sure how I would feel about that, but I actually really, really enjoyed it. And the fact that this man basically waited 7 years to be with her because of all this timeline jumping, I was like, Clementine loses her aunt. And definitely check the trigger warnings for this book because of that situation. Clementine loses her aunt, and she moves into her aunt's apartment, which is kind of like magical in a sense. And when she moves into her aunt's apartment, there's like a man that shows up there. And she's like, what are you doing here? And he's like, I was told I could stay here by your aunt. Here's the situation. And she's like, what are you talking about? That's from 7 years ago. So he's stuck 7 years in the past. She's in the present. So every time they meet at the apartment, she's meeting 7 years him in the past. She is living 7 years in his future, and he is living 7 years in her past. But then their paths do eventually cross in the same timeline. And Clementine fears she may be 7 years too late. This is very much a wholesome romance book. I haven't read any depraved. Well, I read a little bit of the Mind series, which we'll get into. A little bit of a depraved romance, but not too crazy. This Wretched Valley. I did read this and this vlog a little bit. This is a paranormal horror book. And I didn't think I would like paranormal, but I actually think I like paranormal because you can't really explain what's going on. And even when I finish this book, I still don't know what the was happening, but I'm okay with that. These 2 PhD students and these 2 climbers go out into this land to kind of scope out this new set of rock that the PhD students had found. And when they get on the land, it's almost like they're stuck in this new vortex. They automatically feel this eerie feeling, and everything starts feeling a little bit off. They start seeing things. They start hallucinating eventually. They try to walk back to the road, back to the car, and they'll walk for hours, but then they end up right back at the campsite, and it like brings them back in a circle. I really liked it. I thought it was fast-paced enough. I will say the ending of it was a little, it wasn't bad by any means, but I do feel like it could have been done a little bit better. But overall, I had a lot of fun reading this book. The Mind series, if you know anything about the series, you know it's 5 books in one. So if you buy it, that's why it's so thick. It's 5 little books in here. We were reading this book for my book club in June, but I did end up reading the last two days of May because they're like 120 pages each, and I missed Lana. I couldn't wait any longer. I talked about this in the books that I wanted to read for the month of June, so I'm not gonna really touch on it. Go watch that video. But FBI agent, dating a serial killer, the first 2 books in this series really end off on cliffhangers, and that's why they're so bingeable. Like the first one, cliffhanger. You're like, oh my gosh, have to immediately start the second. I think the second cliffhanger is even crazier than the first, and they're just so easy to binge. They are free on Kindle Unlimited too. Very dark though, check the trigger warnings. I will say I did already finish this entire series by the time I'm filming this video, and I will touch on it at the end of June, but the little bit I do want to say is this book is still in my top 5 books I've ever read. It's so good. I love it so much. A Tempest of Tea. I didn't finish it. I have about 75 pages left. I just have no desire to read it right now, and I'm not gonna force myself to read it. For a YA fantasy book, I think it's really well done. I'm just not in the mood to read it anymore. It's good, and I like the characters. I actually really like the characters, and the found family of it that I have read so far, it's great. I think if this was on my Kindle, I'd be able to finish it like ASAP. I just don't, I have no reason. I'll eventually finish it. I did want to touch on it in this video because I don't think this was required. Was this required for me or not? I can't remember. But I have been meaning to read this for a very long time. Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. This was so good. So good. This is my first book by Grady Hendrix. This was the last book that I read in that horror vlog, and it was my favorite out of all three of them. The way Southern women were portrayed was almost funny. The vampire moving to town was good. The book club that these Southern women were all in, and they were just nosy and bad bitches by the end of the book. Incredible. This was just warm, disturbing. The roach scene, icky. The roach scene, I can't even actually think about that because that was disgusting. The Wrong Family. I DNF'd this book at first, and then I ended up picking it back up because I was like, whatever, I might as well. So the reason why I bought this book was because I was under the impression that this woman named Juno went to live with this perfect family. What's her name? The Crouch family? The Crouch family. I was under the impression that this woman named Juno went to live with the Crouch family, and the Crouch family knew that she was going to live with them. And then when Juno got there, she realized that they weren't the perfect family like she thought they were, and then she started to unpack all these secrets about them. That's what I thought. No. Juno is living in the Crouch family's closet without them knowing that she's living there. And she sneaks into their home one day, and then they set the alarm, and this girl can't get out. Their house must be huge because she lives in this decent sized closet while overhearing certain things and then unpacking and uncovering certain things that had happened. At first I was like, I don't know if I like this, which is why I DNF'd it, and then I really didn't love it. I don't know if it's the way the story was written, because overall that sounds really fascinating, what I just explained. I gave it 2 stars. Something wasn't working for me. And the last book that I read in the month of May was Local Woman Missing. This has been on my TBR for a very, very, very long time. I really liked this book until the ending. One of the biggest things that bothered me at the end of this book is there were so many loose ends. That's really what bothered me. I didn't even remember that until I read one of these paragraphs. So many loose ends. Is there gonna be another book? Did anybody else feel that way? Because it ended and I was like, wait a minute, what about this though? One woman goes missing, and then another woman goes missing, and then another girl goes missing. But then 11 years later, one of the girls comes back, and everybody's like, are these tied together? What's going on? Who did this? Who are we searching for? Are all of these missing people connected? Because as it says on the inside, people don't just disappear without a trace. And those are all the books that I read in the month of May. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video, and once again, thank you June's Journey for sponsoring today's video. The link to download the game will be in the description bar down below, or I'll put the QR code back on the screen. I love you guys so much, and I will see you guys next week.